What's going on, everybody? You're watching Dialerix TV2 back with another video. And in today's video, I will be reacting to Shawn Porter. He did like a interview. He came on to a panel. It's called South Box by Eric Kelly. And he just spoke about a potential fight versus Terrence Crawford. And we're going to react to the video. If you guys haven't done so already, be sure to like, comment, and subscribe. Let's get into the video.
Got a
Hey man,
question, Sean.
yeah, go ahead.
I got a question. My question is this. You've been in the ring with everybody at 47.
Yep,
You and
that's
Danny
what I
went
was
at it.
thinking.
You and Sean, when you not Sean, but you and Earl went at it. You and Danny went at it. You and Keith went at it.
Yeah.
I'm hearing talks about Terrence Crawford. Personally, I'm a huge Terrence Crawford fan. He's my
Mm-hmm.
number one pound for pound today. I love
So Terrence Crawford is his number one pound for pound, best fighter in the world. Though Terrence Crawford, it's almost as if the the average boxing fan, right? It's like ESPN gifted, hand wrapped and gifted Terrence Crawford this title as the best pound for pound, even though Canelo's out there. Terrence Crawford, to me, hasn't done anything at the 147 division that could warrant him being, the best pound for pound. It's popular, the most popular thing to say right now. Terrence Crawford is the best pound for pound. And it's like, what has he done? We speak about what he did at 135, what he did at 140. What is he doing at 147 that you would consider him the best pound for pound? Because he defeated a over the hill Kell Brook. Because he defeated Amir Khan, who hasn't been the same since he knocked out. Amir Khan hasn't been the same for a while now, but he really wasn't the same after he got knocked out by Canelo Alvarez. A guy who got dropped by Mean Machine is your best pound for pound. A guy who, was able to get a victory versus Jeff Horn. Jeff Horn was able to get a victory, edge out a victory over Manny Pacquiao. The same Manny Pacquiao who defeated Keith Thurman. But you have, like I said, ESPN. Bob Arum has ESPN in his back pocket. He has the reporters in his back pocket. So they can write great stories about Terrence Crawford. They're going to favor Terrence Crawford. PBC isn't aligned with ESPN. So the reporter is going to be biased. It's similar to when they had Manny Pacquiao as fighter of the decade. This man Floyd Mayweather is getting in there with killers, and you talk about he's the fighter of the decade. The fighter of the decade. Let's just think about it. Floyd Mayweather was in there. No matter how he wins. A winner, undefeated. We talking about the Floyd Mayweather. To me, the greatest fighter to ever lace up the gloves, in my opinion. We talk about a guy who got in there with Cotto, Mosley, Oscar De La Hoya, Canelo, Ricky Hatton. Like, we could go on and on. This man is one of the, he done fought, we ain't even gonna break up Diego Corrales and Zab Judah, all these great athletes and all these, this man has a superb, great resume. One of the longest reigning champions in the sport of boxing, yet Manny Pacquiao is the fighter of the decade. It's just disrespect, but I just think that everybody, especially everybody has a sheep mindset. They got a herd mindset. They follow popular opinion. So they run with it. If you ask, they don't analyze anything. They don't use logic in a lot of situations. They just like, oh well, I heard Max Kellerman and I heard Andre Ward and I heard, Tim Bradley, all these people that's on the payroll at ESPN. I heard all these guys, give, label Terrence Crawford as the best pound for pound. So I gotta run with it. I don't know why I'm running with it, but I'm running with it.
Up
I ain't
Terrence
mad at
Crawford.
you. I ain't
You
mad at you at
understand what
all.
I'm saying? And I know
Yeah,
that you and Bud, I know that you and Bud got a real good relationship.
yeah. I need to.
That's the fight we need to see.
I
That'd
believe
be
that
so
that.
much action for that fight. Oh my god,
Hey, you know what's crazy though, man,
it'd be a
and
crazy
I just
fight.
I can't help it but keep it real, right? So, I guess there was a post put out that he was going to be announcing his next opponent, right? And
Mm-hmm.
because my guy, I haven't told my guys anything, so my guy's like, okay, it can't be Shawn, so who can it be? And they started tossing around all these different these names, and I'm like, dang, that'll be a good fight. Like we talk about Shawn Porter and Terrence Crawford, and we talk about Terrence Crawford and Terrence and we talk about Terrence Crawford and we talk about Errol Spence Jr. But
A quick point that I want to touch on real quick. You got, he just said that the guy at the top stated that, Terrence Crawford and Shawn Porter have a really close relationship, right? So, and it always brings me back to, it reminds me of, or not remind me, but it brings me back to how when Terrence Crawford in his post fight interview, the reporter said, hey, this was before he was talking about a potential fight versus Manny Pacquiao, or I think it was somebody that he was going to have in another country, I think Africa or something like that. And he was like, "Kumbaya, we want Crawford, blah, blah, blah." Then his whole body language changed and shifted once they mentioned Shawn Porter. And he acted as if he was, very dismissive, very act like he didn't even need that fight. Like he wasn't worried. As he said, I'm not worried about that fight. If me and Shawn Porter were to have a fight, it would be us sitting down man to man because they have a relationship. It wouldn't come down to Bob Arum. This is his exact words. It wouldn't come down to Bob Arum and it wouldn't come down to Al Heyman. It would be between him and Shawn Porter. But from what I'm hearing, Bob Arum is pretty much talking to Shawn Porter or talking to his father. Where is Terrence Crawford in this? Because from what we seen on Twitter, Terrence Crawford told Shawn Porter that he's on standby. You have to wait. Get to the back of the line. I'm focused on Manny Pacquiao right now. So is this a conversation that you're having with Shawn Porter one-on-one? Or is this with Bob Arum and Shawn Porter and Shawn Porter's team? Because what's going on here? You told us it's between y'all two. It's not going to come down to Bob Arum and Al Heyman. And the fans are saying, "Oh well, he could activate the mandatory, and it's up to Al Heyman to do this and do that." But Terrence Crawford said out his own mouth, "You as a fan, you can say what you want, but you got to hold this man accountable." He said that it's not going to, excuse me. He said it's not going to come down to Al Heyman and Bob Arum. It's going to be between him and Shawn Porter to sit down and have a discussion about a potential fight. Even they said that Bomac was on somebody's live chat on Facebook. Shout out to Monty Brown once again. He did a live stream on YouTube, and he brought a guy up and and he said that he stated that Shawn Porter was next. Of course, he's probably going to be next if Manny Pacquiao, because there's this notion that Manny Pacquiao is ducking Terrence Crawford and he's trying to, ask for $40 million and blah blah blah. He took $20 million versus Keith Thurman. if I'm not mistaken. I think that's the exact number. But he took 20 million for Keith Thurman, or upwards of 20 million, and upwards of 20 million for Adrian Bronner. But he somehow like, oh, I want 40 million, and I won't go no lower than that. But anyway, Bomac stated that, went on record and said that Shawn Porter would be next for Terrence Crawford. So if that's the case, if they're discussing a potential fight, then he don't have to act. It's obvious that he doesn't have to activate the mandatory. If they're having conversations, if he's talking to Bob Arum. See, the issue is fans. There's a business side to boxing, and is who's in control? Is Bomac in control, or is Bob Arum is it Bob Arum the one who's in control? He's the promoter, so he's having a conversation with Shawn Porter directly. It seems to me that Terrence Crawford and his team doesn't understand the business side, and neither does the fans.
We don't talk about other great fights that could be made with any of us. So my guys was like, maybe it's Keith Thurman. I wouldn't mind seeing that. And I was like, I said, dang, like I wouldn't mind seeing that's a good fight. Keith Thurman and Terrence Crawford is a good fight.
Crawford stopped Thurman.
What?
I don't think Keith's been active enough to take that fight right off of, not after
Shoulder surgery and Pacquiao.
And
yeah.
that's the number one reason why I have not said, hey, I want to fight Keith, or I want to fight Keith, rematch, this and that, is because, we fought in 2016, and 2016 to now, I really haven't missed a step, and it's like Keith has not maintained a certain level to this point where I'm like, yo, I want the big fights, and Keith, you haven't been active enough, enough for me to feel like I need to get in the ring with you.
That'll be a step back for you right now, Shawn. That'll be a step back for you.
I agree. I agree with him. And that's the main thing. People don't understand that there's a factor that everybody can agree to disagree. I do agree with him, that if he were to get in there and face Keith Thurman, it's like going backwards. Like, you guys already done. I mean, some people may see that as a great fight because it a great rematch because these two, it was a really close fight. And, it was like a gladiator style, gladiator fashion type of fight where they went tit for tat. And, to me, that's the past. Even, Tony Harrison he did an interview stating that he would like to, he basically was giving praise to Jamal Charlo. Is it Jamal Charlo? I think it was Jamal Charlo, I'm sorry. So he put his pride to the side and, he big up Jamal Charlo and was like, he's a great champion, blah, blah, blah. But, he still wants that trilogy. And for me, it's the past, man. Just some things you just gotta just let go. Just let go. You take your loss, and let's say if that fight does present itself down the line, then cool, that's fine. Let's say you get redemption and you're able to be able to come back and have a big fight versus one of the top fighters and then rematch him down the line, then that's a great, I think that's a great path and where you should go, direction. I think that's a direction you should take. But some things is just move on. Right now, I think the fight that needs to be made is Terrence Crawford versus Shawn Porter. No other fight needs to be made. I want to see Terrence Crawford. If Terrence Crawford goes out there and prove that he could defeat Shawn Porter in a better fashion than Errol Spence, he has to prove to us why he's the best pound for pound. You just can't give somebody the title as the best pound for pound. To me, the best pound for pound is between Canelo Alvarez and Errol Spence. To me, Canelo Alvarez and Errol Spence. Those are the best pound for pound. So I just feel like Keith Thurman has been inactive. His last fight was versus Manny Pacquiao. I think that he needs to get himself back in the mix, get his confidence back, and get a victory, get a W under his belt before you discuss a rematch with Shawn Porter, or if you somehow you're somehow able to convince Earl Spence to get in that ring with you. But we're past that. I think Shawn Porter just needs to focus on Terrence Crawford and Terrence Crawford solely. And once again, we have fans like, he needs to activate his mandatory. He needs to activate his mandatory. If these guys are friends, shouldn't they be able to have a discussion and talk? There's a business side to it. We keep saying that he needs to activate his mandatory. Bob Arum lowballed this man $2 million, right? And then I had a fan have the nerve to say, oh, well, Shawn Porter didn't even make that in his last fight. I'm like, bro, do you understand the business? Like, do you know that Shawn Porter is going to demand more fight, because this is a fight that's going to have better numbers. It's going to do better viewership than a fight versus the guy Formella. Formella's not Terrence Crawford. He's not Errol Spence. Terrence Crawford fight with Amir Khan barely did 150,000 pay-per-view buys. Bob Arum went on record and stated that he's losing out on money promoting Terrence Crawford. So for Shawn Porter, if Shawn Porter he already went on record and said that the Errol Spence way, you're going to make a lot of money. Derek James spoke about this, how when Errol Spence fights, an entire city they're profiting off of one big Errol Spence fight. When Errol Spence fights in Dallas, people are booking hotels, renting cars. It's big, it's huge for them in Dallas to have a homegrown fighter there, and they could get behind him. So he made a lot of money with Errol Spence. Why would he lowball himself? That just doesn't make sense. But anyway, let him continue.
Like, the fight for you is a Spence rematch. A Spence.
I don't want to see a Spence rematch right now. I want to see him versus Terrence Crawford. No other fight matters right now. No other fight matters. Terrence Crawford he has to be held accountable. He can no longer continue go out here and be the best pound for pound without getting in that ring and proving it to us. Despite what people say about Shawn Porter, despite how people may feel like, oh, Shawn Porter is tailor-made for Terrence Crawford, he's just going to rush in and blah, blah, blah. He has to prove it to us. He has to prove it. He can't continue to go out and be... Terrence Crawford is the only fighter I know that could be the GOAT or be labeled as the best pound for pound without going out there and doing any work. I wish I could do that at work. Everybody could. You know what? That's the best worker we got. Employee of the month. You the employee of the month. You don't even show up on time for work. Don't show up on time for work. When you there, you're not doing your job right. You getting all these write-ups, spitting in people's food, wiping your butt, then fixing people burgers. But you the employee of the month. You know what? We gonna give you. We gonna. Now we about to give you a raise. You know what? A raise not good enough. We gonna give you a promotion. That's what we gonna do. We gonna give you a promotion. And you the employee of the month. Now we gonna give you the promotion. Now you the manager. Now you're the manager because you're not doing what you're supposed to do. So we're gonna reward you for not doing what you're supposed to do. That's how crazy that sounds. He has done nothing at the welterweight division, but he's the best pound for pound. And you want to go off what he did a long time ago. It's crazy.
Match or
Yeah, I
a
was.
chance
Oh, I love that.
or Chance Crawford fight.
Yeah,
Sean, I'm as honest and real as it get. I don't bite
yeah.
my tongue a little bit. You
No,
understand
you
what I'm
don't.
saying?
No, you don't. You don't.
Um, Errol Spence don't want it with Crawford. Um,
Errol Spence doesn't want it with Terrence Crawford. Errol Spence does not want it with Terrence Crawford. Now, as I can recall, Terrence Crawford just recently did an interview and said that 50-50, if he had a 50-50, if he was offered 50-50, he wouldn't want to fight. He was calling out all these guys when he was at 140. And, Terrence Crawford just said pretty much at this point, there's no way you can negotiate to make a fight with Errol Spence. Which, if that's Terrence Crawford, if that's his stance he want to take, then cool, that's fine. Because obviously he's trying to, take the same approach as Errol Spence when it comes to a potential fight. Terrence Crawford is bitter and bothered by the fact that Errol Spence feels as though he's in the driver's seat, even though the numbers are a reflection of his attitude, right? Right? The numbers could justify his stance, the way he felt, the way he feel. He's proven it. The numbers are proving it. 300,000 pay-per-view buys. Ticket sales. Attendance rate. Like, Errol Spence is proven why he the A side. He offered him 60-40. Like, now it's as if Terrence Crawford is like, I'm the one in the driver's seat. I'm in control. Right? It's a pride and ego thing. You're not going to sit up here and be telling me, oh, well, I got to take 60-40 and I got to do this. So what leads you to believe that Errol Spence don't want the Terrence Crawford fight? What are we saying from Terrence Crawford? Everybody that calls out Terrence Crawford, Virgil Ortiz, everybody's not ready. Nobody's ready for Terrence. When it comes to Terrence Crawford, he doesn't have to fight anybody. All these fighters calling him out. Ennis just called him out. Well, he's on Errol Spence's side, so it should be easier to make a fight. But Errol Spence is about to fight Yordenis Ugas. This is what, the consensus is, that Errol Spence is going to fight. That's going to be his next fight. Everybody knows that Errol Spence's next fight is Yordenis Ugas. But Jaron Ennis is linked to Errol Spence. And that's all they talk about. He should get in there with Jaron Ennis. But when it comes to Terrence Crawford, oh no, he's not ready yet. They on the same side of the street. If I'm not mistaken, Virgil Ortiz live on the same block as Terrence Crawford. Shawn Porter don't have no problem going on the other side of the street. Why that fight hasn't been made yet? Oh, it ain't made because he ain't activated his mandatory. You can't make this up, man. But anyway, I don't know how long this video been going, man. Clearly, Errol Spence is handling his business side, and he's doing as he said he would do. He said he's going to clean up his side of the street, and take care of business over there. So what is Terrence Crawford going to do? He just going to sit back and just wait and see what Errol Spence does? His whole career is just banking on an Errol Spence fight or Manny Pacquiao fight. No other fight matters. But anyway, y'all get in that comment box, like, subscribe, I'm out.